you could potentially double your business income without spending a single dollar
that was
on
the
marketing.
refreshing point, because
So what's the cost of not having a CRM?
firstly, growth,
Yeah.
visibility, attribution, reporting.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Sip on This. My name's Naj.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Emad.
And today we're going to go through a bit of a deep dive on HubSpot, specifically HubSpot for growth, what changes with your marketing when you implement a CRM system like HubSpot. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to cover the basics first.
Yeah, maybe identify sort of what life looks like without a CRM.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you actually grow without it?
Definitely. Well, a lot of what I find is there's quite a few businesses that have actually gotten far without a CRM. But when they get to the stage where they realize that, hey, we need a CRM, the job is much harder.
Yeah.
Because they're so integrated into, spreadsheets and standalone systems. And I use this system for email marketing, and I track my leads via this spreadsheet, and I do this via this sheet. So it becomes much more complex to bring it all into a CRM. But when you do bring it into a CRM, you are essentially centralizing all your data. You're centralizing all your back-end operations, all your reporting. And then the most important part of it is when it's implemented right, you actually centralize your attribution.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the issues I see when good businesses come to us, they're not as sort of as optimum as what they can be, but they're a decent business, but they still run in this sort of fragmented situation where they do have, a dozen different spreadsheets for everything. Their leads are coming here, their data is stored there. They have different systems, for like email marketing, different SMS systems. It's all sort of disconnected, and they kind of operate on the model of looking at their P&L, going, we're sort of doing okay. And they could be, they probably are, but probably not as good as they could be. And I think that's where the introduction of a centralized platform like HubSpot could take that business to the next level. Yeah,
definitely. And we've seen that many times, especially when businesses realize, we're at a good spot at the moment, revenue's good, profit is good, but now we want to optimize. How can we get better? And it's systems like HubSpot that allow us to identify a lot of the nuggets in a business's data and basically either be able to fix that or be able to optimize that or be able to put strategies in place to get the most out of it.
So what do you think changes in marketing when, how far can your marketing go if you implement a system like HubSpot?
Yeah, good question. Quite far. Firstly, I think we need to break it down into a few different parts. The first part is centralizing all your customers, all your leads, all your records in one place.
Yeah.
You have a single place for everything. What a platform like HubSpot gives you is the ability to have a complete historic timeline on the particular contact. So we can dive into, for example, if I was to dive into your record in HubSpot, I can see your first interaction with the business, pages you clicked on, what you viewed, forms you filled out, how many times you've returned, have you clicked on any of our ads, for example. So that's the sort of the first part, is gathering all the data about all your contacts. The second part, and one of the most important ones, is the integration with all the marketing platforms. And I think Andy can really testify to that.
Yeah, definitely can. There's like you said, when we start with all this, every business starts and they're like, oh, I need a website. So they get a website. Where are my leads going? I'll put them in a spreadsheet. So they've got a spreadsheet. I want to email my customers. They got a MailChimp because that's the only thing that they see get advertised. So they have all these fragmented things, and they get to a point where they're like, oh, nothing talks. So if we email a load of customers with MailChimp, great. You might get a response. You might see it in web traffic, but you don't necessarily see if they came straight from the email. If they got the email, opened it, and then searched and came back direct or organically, because depending on the time of day you sent it. Whereas with HubSpot, and from a marketing and like attribution standpoint, we can see exactly what that customer is doing the entire time. If we've sent out a marketing email, we can see Andy's opened it.
Yeah.
Click this link, didn't buy the product, came back a day later, direct to that product, and then bought it. And all of that is historical in his timeline. So attribution becomes very clear that he may have come direct to that product at the end, but it was the marketing email that started that sort of passageway to him purchasing or inquiring. So it builds out an entire history.
I suppose a really powerful thing with that is that will enable a business to make decisions based on that data. So you may say, look, why do I want to control all this and track all this and have all this anyway? But when you're doing it at scale, it really provides you the ability to have a look at every touch point of the funnel and then make some decisions, put some automations in, put some workflows, make some really sort of significant marketing decisions based on that data.
What it does is create accountability.
Yeah.
Creates accountability for different departments, teams that are working on the business, on the account. When you have all your data flowing through one central platform, everything's connected, ads are integrated, we have analytics, then you can start going into reporting.
Yep.
And you can identify where your shortfalls are within the business. When you have that, you can take it to a level of, for example, lead scoring. Or
tell us a bit more about lead scoring for the people who don't know what it is, how does it work, why it's important.
You love this bit.
Yeah. So basically, lead scoring, a system like HubSpot will allow us to score leads on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, however you want to do it. What we're essentially doing is we're defining custom parameters for your business. And when those custom parameters are achieved or are hit, we apply a score to the lead. So, for example, if a lead comes in from Google Ads, let's say, and they fill out their name, their phone number, we have their address, we capture all the appropriate details. We might say, okay, because that lead has filled out everything with all the required details that our sales team needs to be able to contact that lead and move ahead with it, we're going to apply 3 points to that lead. Sure. Right? So now if we're scoring it out of 5, for example, that lead is a 3 out of 5. Now, during the sales process, for example, if our marketing team decides to send them an EDM, or they're in the marketing list and they're receiving generic, they happen to open that EDM, read it, click on a link, visit the website, we might give them 1 more point.
Yeah.
If further down the sales cycle, they decide, hey, I'd actually like a quote. Come out to my house, let's quote it. I would like to go further. We might say, okay, this is the ideal lead, 2 points.
Yeah.
And then they are the perfect lead. They've come, they provided all their details. They're happy for us to come to their home and give them a quote for whatever service they want. They are engaging with our marketing material. They're revisiting our website. They're interacted with our brand online. They are a perfect prospect, a perfect lead. Now, what we do with a system like HubSpot is we do that on scale.
Yeah.
Prioritize
the leads.
Across many leads, across many different channels. And then what we can gauge is we can say, okay, we have this particular campaign on Google Ads, and the average score of the leads from this particular campaign is a 4 out of 5 or a 7 out of 10, however we want to score it. Where the leads that are coming through from Meta, although it's providing us more volume, they might be only scoring a 2 out of 5, for example, because they're not hitting all the criteria that we want them to hit. So by scoring the leads, we're able to apply a score back to a campaign, back to an ad, back to an ad set, or a traffic source, for example. And it will allow us to optimize our marketing to bring in higher quality leads for the business and hit the numbers that are actually tangible and that actually matter.
Yeah, that's cool. One other really good aspect of it, some of my direct clients have sort of had, is being able to deliver their salespeople the hottest leads. So basically prioritizing the leads based on their scores. So if you are a business that generates a ton of leads, start with the hottest ones and work your way down. And they're the ones that score the highest. They're the ones that have the highest probability of converting. So salespeople traditionally would love to go for those leads and then work your way down.
Yeah, definitely. And then what that sort of leads us into is one of the other strong points of having a CRM like HubSpot is your custom workflows. That allow us to do that. And I know, Andy spends most of his days on automation and workflows. Do you want to take us through a few examples that you've worked on recently?
I mean, I love the automation in there. It's and again on the scattered approach, try and automate or lead score when you've got 10 systems working. When we've got this one, once we've got things like attribution and lead scoring, we can create automations that say, okay, if lead X is only a 2 out of 5, put them in this customer list of low quality leads. And it'll analyze the leads as they come in and it will work through them, and we can put them in buckets and lists and then allocate those to sales members. And say you've got one guy or woman that's red hot at closing and you want to allocate them all the best leads, we can set that up in a workflow. Because they're like, Andy's red hot at closing. In the workflow, if the lead scores a 5, send them to Andy. And then again, from a business perspective, this workflow, all this gets attributed to the contact. So you can go in and see the history, that the workflow they've gone through, who they've been given to. And then from a business point of view, you can look back at your sales team, how many leads they've got, how quickly it took them to go back to that lead, to work them, how quickly it took to convert them, and all that's there to display. And without a CRM and without something like HubSpot, and we've all dealt with customers that don't have it, and they're like, oh, how are my ads going? We've got you X leads. How many sales did I get? Good question. Whereas with things like this, we can attribute it, we can automate processes in the back end to make just things a lot smoother. And then your sales team aren't trying to qualify a lead and going, oh, let me call Joe Bloggs. No, he was a duff lead. He's already marked as a low scoring lead. So they will get to him at another later point. We'll get to the higher scoring leads, and they're working leads that are actually going to benefit your business rather than the ones that are like, they're wasting their time on tire kickers.
The workflows also allow us to get a lot smarter about the content that we show specific prospects.
The personalization.
So a bit of the personalization, and like a lot of people, when you say personalization, they often think that it's just personalization on the website, but it's actually, like with something like HubSpot, it takes it much further than that. And I can give you an example of what that looks like. So for example, if we have, say, a handful of leads that have hit a specific criteria, let's say they're a really, really high quality lead, they've scored really well, they're currently in the sales process, we can have workflows in place that can automatically take those leads that have hit those parameters, place them in custom lists in HubSpot, and then import those lists automatically into platforms like Meta, platforms like Google, because they have a direct integration with HubSpot. What that can allow us to do is we can show those higher quality prospects a completely different type of ad. Different messaging. Maybe it's more creative, a more tailored offer. Like that component of it really comes down to your content strategy. But you can start to personalize the ads quite rapidly, depending on where people are in your sales cycle, via the automated workflows that HubSpot provides.
It allows us to take personalization much further beyond, hi, Andy, which is what people kind of think
Yeah, that's
personalization
right,
is in
yeah.
an email.
I know
Everybody-
your first name.
I know your
How
first
clever
name.
am I?
I'm personalizing the same content to
Yeah.
everybody, but just changing your name. So
Yeah.
with having a CRM like this and having all the automations and the integrations, we can push things and much further. And everybody, I know we talk about everybody's sick of ads, seeing ads or this, that, and the other. And I would much rather have tailored ads for me that I'm interested in. Oh, yep. Rather than some random stuff. So having that level of personalization and using automations to build these lists and then punching them back into ad platforms.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it without a CRM. I genuinely don't.
Yeah. Well, one thing that with our sort of over the last sort of 12 months with some of our clients, one thing that really stood out to me was like HubSpot's reporting ability and the dashboards that you guys have been building, and specifically being able to find nuggets of information that would have been completely impossible to try and work out, which make a huge impact to a company's bottom line. For example, a recent case, you guys will be all over this, where we sort of identified beyond the sort of incoming leads and how much money is created from those leads, but where particular leads were stuck in a pipeline due to inefficiencies of being able to quote and being able to service, but actually be able to quantify that number. Maybe talk us a little bit more about that, Emad, and sort of what businesses can sort of learn from that, and how they can sort of have a look at some of this stuff that's a little bit different to the sort of more common. How many leads do I have? What sort of generated out of that?
This particular business as well wasn't keen on using HubSpot initially.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of context. I'll take it from the very start. Basically, onboarded this business, multi-channel marketing. We set up HubSpot. A little bit skeptical about the CRM. They had their own, field work system that they were using, and it does a great job, and it does what it's intended to do. Got them on HubSpot. Did a complete multi-channel marketing approach, so organic search, paid media, content marketing, social, the works. We saw within maybe 2 months, I would say 2 to 3 months, pretty immediate growth to the business, where the owner was coming to us and sort of say, this is good, it's working, revenue's up, I'm seeing the value.
Yeah.
Amazing. Month on month, revenue kept increasing till we got to a point. The point that we got to was much higher than the revenue they've historically generated. And it was clearly due to the marketing. Like, it was the correlation was extremely obvious in the reporting. We were able to articulate that in the HubSpot dashboards. We were able to show the revenue uplift when the marketing kicked in, when we scaled budgets up, when we scaled budgets down. You could see the complete trajectory of everything. It was great. We identified that the business had a lot of opportunity, and to essentially grow much bigger than they were at, and something that the owners of the business wanted. But we were hitting a little bit of a plateau with everything. While results were increasing, everything was doing so well. We started to identify some inefficiencies in the front of house of the business, how the leads come in, how quickly they sort of action the leads, and where it's at. So we did something that, that we could do because we had HubSpot. We looked into their pipeline. Now we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of leads. So we worked through 3 months worth of data. And I won't run you through every step of their pipeline, but basically the most important stages in their pipeline were the leads received, the leads out for quote. They've been, someone's gone out to site and quoted that. They've either won it or they've lost it. What we found was we were getting a lot of leads caught in the follow-up stages of the deal funnel. And although we initially attributed it to just busy. They're busy. They're getting to customers are taking time to make decisions, and we sort of didn't flag it as anything too important.
Not initially.
Andy and myself looked into a lot of the data much further and started to correlate the leads in HubSpot with what's happening in their sort of field service software. And we started finding like millions of dollars of leads just sitting there and not moving from certain stages.
Yeah, wow.
And realizing, oh, hang on, there's a problem.
Yeah,
here.
now we're talking about a significant number, probably
Big number.
probably as much or if not more than the entire company's
Turnover.
Yeah.
Significant amount of leads that were essentially getting lost.
And they'd worked the lead initially.
Yeah. And just work the lead, and then just all activity on the lead disappears. How did we know all activity on the lead disappeared? We had everything plugged into HubSpot.
Yeah.
We knew the time the lead came in, when someone emailed the lead, when someone called the lead, the last time a note was left, when the the team member went out to quote the lead.
Because we had it connected with their proprietary system as well.
So
the data was syncing back
We
and
built a
forward.
lot of custom connectors that weren't available in the marketplace, basically using the APIs of the two platforms that allowed us to have these two systems talk to each other and start mirroring the data. And then we essentially extrapolated all of that on a larger level, and were able to identify, basically map it on a monthly level on how many leads were getting left behind, essentially forgotten about,
Yeah.
and how much money they were leaving on the table.
Yeah.
And the money they were leaving on the table outweighed their growth ambitions for the business.
Yeah. I mean, the
Fine.
most exciting part for me was, talking to the business owner and basically as a team telling him that you could potentially double your business income without spending a single dollar
that was
on
the
marketing.
refreshing point, because they had come in to the meeting.
Let's spend
with,
more money.
with an expectation of, okay, guys, how much money do we have to spend? And it was actually really refreshing as a marketer to say, hang on, you didn't actually have to spend a cent extra on marketing. Your budget's actually quite healthy. What we need to do is we need to go and look at all of this.
Yeah.
Essentially, it was, well, what do you mean? And then Andy was rolling through it and just explaining everything, and jaws were just dropping and dropping and dropping further. And now we're looking at expanding the HubSpot capability further with some more automations, deeper reporting, and actually working out a strategy on, okay, how are we going to service all these leads that are just sitting there?
Yeah. So, I mean, the broader discussion of that was the business was looking into potentially employing more people to take care of that, and us having a look at some help with some AI automation and sort of things like that that can merge the two together.
Yes.
But that's really the difference between, the old sort of fashioned, cookie cutter single channel sort of type of marketing and what we refer to as growth marketing, where it's not always about, let's look at your budget, let's up your budgets. It's finding these sort of inefficiencies and then pointing that out to the client. And that would have been completely impossible, right? Without something like HubSpot being able to track and just so clearly go, this is a major issue in your business.
It would
and
have
put a
been.
dollar amount on it.
Yes, because the field service software, and Andy can testify to this, it just tracks jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like they don't have the data. They just there's no way of extrapolating it into something that makes complete sense and paints a really big picture for them.
Yeah, the bird's eye view just was not available.
No, it's not with what they use. What they use serves a great purpose for them.
Yeah.
But it just shows that the manual aspect of what they're doing, they can't scale manually.
Yeah.
They need more automation and more of the CRM, and to leverage that more. And it highlighted things just like we're setting up an automation for them now that's potentially going to save 5 to 6 hours of manual work for one of their staff members. Okay, over a month, but that's almost a day's work.
Time is money.
There's a day's work that person could be doing something else. So just highlighting things like that and finding where there was a bottleneck in the business.
Yeah.
And being able to sit there and all come up with a plan to address it without going, we need more money. Because we didn't. We've helped that. And that client's left with a massive smile on his face going, we found a solution to an issue. We found a problem and a solution.
So, bit of a catch-22. Although they realised they have been leaving all this revenue on the table and they could actually be where they wanted to be financially without spending a dollar more, that part of it was obviously they weren't happy about leaving all that revenue on the table. But on the other part, they knew that, okay, our tech stack and our team, they have our backs. They have the data connected. They know what's working. They know what isn't working. They know where our inefficiencies lie. And now we work together to put a strategy in place and fix it. And that's really what growth is. You're essentially want to embed yourself with the client's team and work together to solve these problems to take the business to the next level. That's all you want to do at the end of the day.
There was literally no way we could have done that without HubSpot.
No.
Literally no way we could have done it.
No.
And it's the same. It also highlighted things where we're running through and he's going, was there no email attached to this one? And then you dive in, you're like, they didn't add an email in your system initially. Yeah. He's like, why are they not adding an email? So now he's finding other aspects where he's like, no, we need to put like the good data in because I'm seeing the benefit of when we do.
Yes.
And it was eye-opening, like just for that one client, but that's not the only one.
Yeah.
No, there's many more.
Do you have any other good examples?
We actually do. So we had another client where we were generating a really high volume of leads for him, again, on HubSpot, fully integrated, using it daily, more so than the previous client, actually, more integrated than the previous client. So lead numbers were healthy, but really found that we were struggling to close.
Yeah.
For the amount of leads coming through. Usually you would say it's a sales problem. Leads there, deal with it. But we knew the sales team was really on point, really well optimized. So I had a hunch that it wasn't a sales problem. So what we were able to actually do, and what I had this client do from the very beginning, is I had defined parameters for him in terms of what is a qualified lead and what isn't a qualified lead. And we actually went in and we trained their whole team all the way down to reception to identify what's actually qualified and what isn't qualified. So a qualified lead would be someone looking for a complete job. An unqualified lead would be someone looking for partial works, for example. So because we had that in place, we were able to map that all the way back to campaign, traffic source, ad group, ad set, pretty much everything. They were fully embedded into HubSpot. And what we realized is we had a particular campaign generating a high volume of leads, really cheap cost per lead. On paper, looked amazing, right? And
it always does.
Looked amazing on paper. So what we were able to actually do, and some of the leads, like surface level, looked all right, but they just were not. They weren't converting into qualified leads at the same percentage benchmark as other campaigns. So we essentially killed it. We did something really bold. Client was like, oh, are you sure it's going to cut the leads? I'm like, well, yeah, it's going to cut your leads, but it's also going to cut the time that your sales team spends working through these lower quality leads. Yeah. Let's give this a shot. So we essentially killed the campaign off. It cut their lead numbers down.
Yeah.
But what they found really quickly is, hey, our qualified leads didn't drop.
Yeah.
They maintained, and we were saving a ton of money on ad spend. What we slowly then did is work through campaign data that maps to qualified lead right through to the sale, and start redistributing those funds slowly across different campaigns. We had a look into the creative that was working the best. Like, we found a lot of the creative where we had someone standing talking rather than someone showing the product were the ones that were moving to a qualified lead, eventually to a sale. So we had the creative team basically produce more of that kind of creative. And then with the redistribution of funds, we were able to really increase the qualified lead rate for the same investment. So they were essentially, their ROAS just blew up, went through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I mean, those types of things, it's just without a system like this in place, you kind of working blind.
You're working blind.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what are the common mistakes that you guys see that sort of people make in terms of, I mean, to be able to achieve these types of things, right? The system has to be set up correctly. You know, it's like the same old notion that you always talk about, garbage in, garbage out, right?
100%.
So if the system is not set up correctly, you would assume that it's not going to be able to perform to this level. So what are some of the common mistakes that you guys see in sort of HubSpot implementations that people should sort of watch out for and sort of, take note of?
Incorrect automation setups, no automation setup, incorrect connection of third-party systems that they're working with, incorrect pipelines set up, field mapping,
which is basically mapping the fields in your lead forms to actual fields in HubSpot, so your data goes somewhere.
Custom properties is one that gets missed quite a lot. HubSpot allows you to extend out the properties on a contact that are particular for your area of business, because not everybody's the same. So it allows you to increase data that you attribute against a customer, and they're normally missed and they just go with the generic.
Yeah.
That's always a big one.
Well, one of the biggest ones that I actually see moving away from integrations is adoption.
Yes.
If you're going to
having
invest,
your whole
there's
team.
so many cases that I find out we're paying all this money for a system, but we're getting nothing out of it. Well, are you actually using it?
Yeah.
You actually using it? Like I go in there and I try, and when I do the training sessions with clients, and I try like drum it in, like, you guys have to live in this system, install it on your phones.
And that's just any system. That's just not HubSpot.
Yeah, because
if you invest the time and money into a platform like this, it's only going to work if you put the work in.
Yes, because the frustration when you're looking into a lot of this complex data and you're trying to work out a solution for the business, and then you realize this one component, we don't have data about it because someone in the team or a particular group of team members didn't utilize it how it should be utilized.
Yeah.
That is actually one of the biggest.
Yeah.
They're old habits.
You know, integrations can be fixed.
Sure.
But if they're not adopting the system and they're really believing in what we're trying to do with it, then nothing's going to work.
They just stick to all the old habits of just staying in emails or just looking at into MailChimp or whatever it might be. They don't actually go into HubSpot. I'd probably say, now you've mentioned it, that's probably the biggest one, is adoption. Yeah. 100%. The rest can be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, adoption and the incorrect sort of data in. Because, I mean, like for me anyway, like how can you make decisions if you can't trust the data? So if you have a slight hesitation that this data is wrong and you're making business scale decisions on it, that could be absolutely detrimental.
Massive.
But people do it.
All
and that's why we're here.
Yeah, I know. No, we're here to help. All good. So what's the cost of not having a CRM?
Firstly, growth.
Yeah.
Visibility, attribution, reporting, efficiency.
An effective business. Just an efficient business.
Visibility is the biggest one.
Yeah. The power to make decisions.
Exactly right.
Done. Why do you think HubSpot is our preferred CRM of choice?
I think because any business can get onto HubSpot. You don't need to be a massive business with a huge turnover to use it.
Emad?
Yep. Also, I would say the ease of use and the way it's able to integrate with all the core marketing channels that you need to integrate it with. Also, it's solid. Like, it doesn't really go down. It doesn't have bugs. It just works.
Yeah.
And that's like one thing that you just don't have to worry about.
So why is it so important to collect your own first-party data?
It's the exact data on the person.
Yeah.
That third-party data is almost like a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. It fades. It's not accurate.
Yep. They are your prospects, your potential customers, your IP. Use them if you have all your terms, obviously, and your privacy policies in place. Use them in your marketing, in your targeting. Extremely important to learn about your customer and your ideal prospect.
Cool. Okay, so key takeaways, wrap-ups. I think it's been really informative. I think I think there's a lot of good examples out there that people can sort of, take from and sort of apply it to their business and have a think about how you can apply a CRM like HubSpot. So maybe some final key points, takeaways before we wrap up.
I'd say look at your business. Look at everything you're using. Is there a single brain that you can operate all of these systems with? If not, then you might need to look into a CRM.
Yeah. And who do you HubSpot is for? You think it's only for medium or larger businesses?
That's actually an interesting question. I actually think even if you're a smaller business, like HubSpot, let's face it, it's not a cheap tool.
Well, they do. I mean, the CRM is free.
Yes, but that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
So if you're a smaller business, I would still adopt the starter version of HubSpot, a couple $100 a month, whatever it is, or just the free CRM.
Yeah.
Get immersed into there and let it grow with your business.
I think you've got the free tier
I think that's
for the
best
CRM.
takeaway.
That's the
And
best
then
takeaway.
I think the next one up is $30.
Yeah. I
$30
think
a month.
you have to, even if you're small, you have to think growth and you have to think
You have to.
like a larger business and adopt some of these best practices in there because it doesn't really take a lot and you can start very affordably.
For a small business, it's the cost of having lunch
Yeah.
twice a week if you're on the run, or a couple of coffees.
Not his lunches.
No, not his
Not
lunches.
No, lobster's expensive.
Lobster's expensive, yeah. CRM master.
Yeah.
Lobster's expensive. But it is literally that.
Yeah.
Any business can do it.
100%. All right. Beautiful, guys.
Thank you very much.
On that note, I think we'll wrap up if there's nothing else.
Nope.
Thank you
All
for your
good.
time.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Stay tuned to the next episode.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.